Hey everybody, welcome back to my modern homestead. If you don't already know, my name is Janet and I am so happy you're here. Today we are canning chicken, but not just any chicken. We are canning seasoned chicken. I love to have this chicken on hand for things such as quesadillas, tacos, burritos. It's perfect for those things, or even soups. So, you ready? Let me show you what we're going to do to get started. Okay, can y'all forgive me if I get a little nerdy on you? I'm just curious. I know that 1 can of chicken in the store is around, I don't know, 12 ounces. So I just want to see what 1 jar of chicken is going to weigh and what it would cost if I bought it at the store. But anyway, before we get to that, here's our chicken. Now, for a long time, chicken was too expensive. I wouldn't buy it in the store. It's come down some, not where it used to be, but not as bad as it was. So we're going to start with this pack of chicken that we're going to cube, and then we're going to season it with garlic, chili powder, cumin, sea salt, and not beef, but chicken broth base. Now, I thought I had already put this on my YouTube channel, but I did not. It was only on my blog. So I said, well, we need it today, so why not go ahead and make it into a video? So what we're going to do first is just cube up this chicken. Pardon me, I know you can't see what I'm doing. Just opening it up. I'm going to take out 1 breast. And as I'm cutting, I'll just cut off any excess fat. Some fat's fine, not going to hurt anything. But all this excess, I just like to cut it off. You don't want big chunks, just kind of like what you would find in the store that was already canned. You know? And a lot of times these pieces of fat will just peel off. All right. Then we just cut it like this. And it usually takes about 1 breast to fill up a jar, a pint-sized jar. Now, we're just doing pints. We're not doing quarts, because we don't always need a quart of chicken for what we're doing. It's like I need to sharpen my knife. It doesn't want to cut through that fat. There we go. And then I will load it into the jar up to about 1 inch headspace. Sometimes I use my funnel for this part so that the outside of that rim doesn't get yucky, but I forgot it. We'll just do this one together. And y'all, I got started and didn't realize before I got started that I didn't have white vinegar. What in the world? I couldn't tell you the last time I didn't have white vinegar. Okay, so that didn't even hold a whole breast. There we go. Let's weigh an empty jar so we can zero out. I guess, yeah. So we can zero this out. Okay, 0. So this is 9.25 ounces. That's about what we'll have in each jar. Let me write that down. 9.25 ounces. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just finish chopping up the chicken and putting it in jars, and we'll be right back. Last of the chicken. Let's get it in the jars. Now before I continue, I want to weigh this with the water. Because when they do canned chicken, I don't know if it's weighed with just the chicken or with the chicken and the water. If I add water to this, to 1-inch headspace, 12.95 ounces. I think that's what a can is in the store. I can't be positive. I'll have to look that up. Okay, so let's write that down. Got chicken on my hand. I'm trying not to touch anything with it. 12.95 ounces with water. Okay, now let's add the spices into our jar, or jars. Okay, to each pint jar, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of the beef base. Oh, I keep calling it beef. The broth base, the chicken flavored. Now we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. You want to use non-iodized for best results. If you use the kind that is iodized, it will have a tendency to make your broth cloudy. If you're just using it for home, it doesn't matter. But it does look prettier if you use the non-iodized. And we're going to use 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. If you like it a lot, you can use a little more. It's totally up to you. If you don't like it a lot, just use 1/4 teaspoon. And now we're going to use about 1/8 teaspoon of garlic powder, between 1/8 and 1/4, depending on your taste. And again, this is garlic powder, not garlic salt. You don't want to get it too salty. And then we're going to use just a couple pinches of chili powder. There we go. Now let's fill each jar to 1-inch headspace with water. I don't have the greatest well water, so I just use bottled water. And if you fill slowly, you won't have as much problem with air bubbles and air pockets. Of course, you'll still need to check for them, but filling slowly helps. Not filling. Prime example, that pocket is just now filling in with broth. So we're going to help it along. Just use the flat edge of a spoon or a fork or a knife and just go around your jar and push the ingredients towards the middle to fill in those spaces in the jar. And a lot of times the water will go way down, so you'll have to come back and add more water. Okay, add more water to the jars that need it. And that's all there is to filling them. Now you want to make sure to wipe the rims really well. Don't leave any residue of spices or chicken or anything on here because it will keep your jars from sealing. Let's put the lids and rings on. When I put on the ring, I like to have a pot holder or a towel or something under the jar. That way, when the jar starts turning and the pot holder or towel starts turning, your jar is finger tight and is ready for the canner. You can just check it. You don't want it real tight, but you don't want it super loose either. Okay, we are ready to put these in the canner. Let's go. When you are at this point, make sure you are following your directions that come with your canner. My canner says to start with 2.5 to 3 inches of water. This is the All-American. It says nothing about removing water if water rises above the jars, so I never have, and until the directions in the manual change, I never will. So let's get the jars in. Having said that, just please make sure you follow what your directions say. All canners are not the same and they all have different directions. Okay, now I didn't have vinegar, so what I did do was put some lemon juice in here that made my water look a little cloudy, but that's all that is. Okay, one thing I didn't mention, down in the bottom you saw the rack. Make sure you use a rack down in the bottom of your canner. So we're going to put on the lid. And mine has a little notch here and an arrow on the lid, and I just line those up. Check the spacing around the lid and the pot. Make sure it's as even as I can get it. And then I put these on, but I don't lock them down until I give everything a good look over to make sure it's sitting right. You see right there, that just adjusted it. A little more space in the back than we did the front, so I just fixed it. Thank you. Okay, that spacing looks good. So at this point, I just lock down opposite wing nuts. To keep the space even all the way around. Because if you don't, you could have steam leaking out one side and your canner wouldn't come up to pressure. All right, now I like to bring my canner up to pressure slowly, so I turn it on a medium-high heat and just let it go. Now when I get up to 11 pounds on the gauge, but it has the weight and it starts doing its thing. When it comes up to pressure, then I will let it vent from this stem for 10 minutes before I start the timer and put on the weight. Now I will can this chicken where I live for 75 minutes in pints. It would be 90 minutes for quarts, but make sure you adjust for where you live and your altitude. Okay, we have steam coming out. So we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. You won't always be able to see the steam. Sometimes you will just hear it, and as long as you can hear it, you can time for 10 minutes. You can definitely feel it. I have to hold my hand up here. Okay, let's put the weight on for 10 pounds. There we go. And when it comes up to pressure, then we'll start timing for 75 minutes. Okay, now we will just leave the canner just like this until the pressure comes all the way down to 0. Then we will begin slowly opening the canner. Okay, the pressure is down to 0. Now we will remove the weight and give it about 5 more minutes and open up the canner. Okay, let's leave it and then we'll unlock the lugs. Okay, let's unlock these, maybe. And then we're going to just prop the lid open for 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, this is how I prop mine open to let it let some of the heat out before we take the jars out. Okay, let's open the canner and get these moved to the cooling table. There we go, friends. There are all of our jars of chicken. So for $14, we got 7 pints. Thank you all so much for joining me. You know I love it when you come and spend a few minutes with me. So until we meet again, may you be blessed. Love you guys.